Hey everybody. All right, this really is the last video of the multi-factor ANOVA. So we're on step 6. We need to figure out how we're going to interpret the study. Always we need to answer 3 questions. The first always is, did we reject the null? And if we do reject the null, we need to move forward and answer 2 others. First of all, is there an effect size? How large is it? And then where is the effect and what direction is it in? So let's pull up a figure and take a look at the results of this particular study. So remember, we're looking at the impact of sleep deprivation on attention or mental alertness, and we're also looking at whether caffeine can have some impact on it. So we had 3 hypotheses. So does sleep deprivation impact mental alertness? Does caffeine impact mental alertness? And then is there an interaction? So if we were doing, 2 independent studies looking at the effect of caffeine alone and the effect of deprivation alone, we could do 2 bar graphs like that. That's just fine. So we see an effect of caffeine, right? Caffeine improves mental alertness. We kind of see an effect of deprivation. At 2 hours deprived, you see a slight decrease, right? But since we're doing this study in one fell swoop, we're manipulating these independent variables simultaneously, we can put these all in one figure right here. And what we see is that we have deprivation right here, and then we have caffeine and no caffeine. So, and then we have mental alertness. So what this shows you is a much better picture of what's going on, because it kind of shows you that if you're sleep deprived and if you don't have caffeine, you're going to have some problems with mental alertness, right? It goes down and down and down. But if you're sleep deprived and you've had caffeine, your sleep deprivation or your mental alertness really doesn't seem to be that affected. So if we were to do these 2 figures, it doesn't really give you the impact. It really doesn't give you the full essence of what's going on, like the figure is right here. So this really tells you that there is some sort of interaction going on, which is what I'm trying to convey to you all. So remember in the last video, we did find that there was a statistically significant impact of our 2 main effects and our interaction. So if we were to put these in APA format, this is what we would see for our rho main effect, which is caffeine. Our value of F for 1 in 24 degrees of freedom was 116.46. Our alpha level is less than 0.05. And then we see it for sleep deprivation as well as the interaction, okay? So what do we report? What's important? Well, the first thing that we always look at is the interaction. Even if we have statistically significant main effects, if we have a significant interaction, we ignore those main effects. Why? Because the interaction might be arbitrarily causing those main effects to appear. So if there's an interaction, that is the interesting thing. That is the thing that we focus on. We don't focus on those main effects, okay? So if we have an interaction, that is what we focus on. And then what we do is follow up any analyses using a post hoc test to see which cell means are specifically different from one another. Sorry, my dogs. So what this kind of tells me right now is that, again, sleep deprivation does seem to impact alertness, but only if you're not caffeinated. Remember, we've got that caveat, which kind of tells us we have an interaction. So at this point, we don't know which means are different from one another. So we would have to do a post hoc to figure that out. So the next thing that we always have to do is find an effect size. And we've been using eta squared for ANOVA. So to find that, we're doing that for all of the statistically significant effects. You go to your ANOVA table and you find your sums of square for interaction, column, and row, and divide that by your sums of square total, and then calculate that into a percentage. And that'll tell you the degree to which you have an effect. So your interaction is a medium effect size. It's 14.63. Your column and row is respectively medium and large effect size. Okay. Last thing is a Tukey test. Again, where are those effects? Which means are different from one another? We've done this Tukey test before, so I'm not going to labor over it. We're going to use a formula that we have used before to try to figure out which of those cell means are different from one another. So this is a slide that I've not shown you before, but these are actually the cell means for the groups that have been given caffeine, no caffeine, and deprivation. So these are the levels of alertness. So what we have to do is calculate that Tukey test. We have to figure out which means are different from one another. And, the value of the Tukey test, the honestly significant difference here is 10.91. So we know that after calculating the HSD, any of those means that are different by 2.91 are statistically different from one another, okay? So what this really tells us is that for participants who consume no caffeine, each increase in sleep deprivation from 0 hours, which was 80, a level of 80, to 1 hour, which was 68, and from 1 to 2 hours, which is mean of 50, that caused a significant decline in their mental alertness. But consuming caffeine seemed to protect against that negative effect of deprivation. That's evidenced by the fact that there's no statistically significant change in cell means in the caffeine group, right? The means for 0, 1, and 2 hours of sleep deprivation were respectively 88, 90, and 86. So none of those differ by 10.81. So looking at differences between the caffeine and no caffeine groups, we see that there is no evidence that caffeine consumption helped performance if no sleep deprivation occurred. But it did help performance with 1 hour of sleep deprivation and 2 hours of deprivation. So that is how I would analyze the data. That's how I would interpret it. And then the last thing that you would always want to do is follow it up with some sort of recommendation for what you might want to do next. So in this study, they were deprived very mildly, 1 hour, 2 hours of deprivation. You might want to pose something differently. This was just 1 dose of caffeine. You might want to see if a higher dose of caffeine might work. It really is up to you. So that is our multi-factor ANOVA. Hope this makes sense. Main effects and interactions tend to give people some heartburn. So if you have questions about it, let me know. Like I said in an earlier email, what I'm going to do Thursday at 1 o'clock is have a synchronous Zoom session. So I'll set something up in Blackboard for any of you who are able to go ahead and log on, and you can ask me questions about the upcoming exam that I will have available for you on Friday. I'm also going to record that session, so those of you who aren't able to log on can reap those benefits. So that's it. Again, hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you're holding up. And I really do hope that I can see you guys soon. Because like I said a million times, I don't love this. I know you don't love it either. But we're making do with what we got, right? So have a great evening. I'll talk to y'all soon. Take care.